Community Redevelopment Agency meeting will come to order. Can we please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Yes, Chair. Before I call the roll, Commissioner Bradley requested to be excused, and I will mark him so. Also in attendance is Council Liaison Welsh. Biondi? Here. Kine? Here. Gerbhardt?
Here.
Slaughter?
Here.
4 present and 1 excused.
Motion.
Second.
Call the roll.
Biondi?
Aye.
Gerbhardt?
Aye.
Kine?
Aye.
Slaughter?
Aye.
All ayes, motion carried.
Thank you. We need a motion to approve the minutes from the November 1st meeting. Have a motion.
Motion.
Second. Call the roll, please.
Biondi?
Aye.
Gerhardt?
Aye.
Kine?
Aye.
Slaughter?
Aye.
All ayes, motion carried.
Thank you. Item number 6, citizens input time. Is there anyone here that would like to speak during citizens input? Please come to the podium here.
Hello, my name is Steve Marcino with EHL Fragilex, and I'm here to talk about Lafayette Street, what's going on there. On April 1st, we're doing our Touch a Truck event, and last weekend we were there at Nice Guys Pizza and saw the sewer pipes and that in the fields and generators on the street, and just kind of wanted an update of when or if that stuff is going to be there during our event. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else for citizens input? Seeing none, would somebody like to address Mr. Marcino's question?
We will have somebody from staff speak to him at the end of this meeting or as soon as they can to find out some more information, and we'll get answers to him and to the rest of the board for you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item number 7, the consent agenda. We need a motion to update. We have 2 items. Update the CRA meeting schedule. There was one date that was incorrect and has been adjusted. It's the August meeting. It has changed to August 1st, I think. Let me see. We have a motion for that, to approve that.
Motion.
Do we need a roll call for that, or just,
You could do a voice roll call or a voice, whichever you prefer, Chair.
all right, let's do it all in favor. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, item number 2 is the CRA resolution to approve the tax increment rebate agreement between the City of Cape Coral, the Community Redevelopment Agency, Bimini Square LLC, Scarlet Investments LLC, and Crown Development, Inc., regarding a mixed-use project known as Bimini Square. Somebody wish to speak on this before we vote?
Yes, I believe we have a presentation for you today.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, members. I'm just going to go over some of the highlighted points of the agreement, and then we have Linda Miller from Avalon Engineering and Larry Nygaard, the developer, and they can give a presentation if that's the desire of the board. So I'll just go into the agreement. So what we're looking at is an agreement that is providing for the CRA to offer tax increment revenue. It's to provide financial support and incentive to development. The city is also a party to this agreement. A component of this is to transfer slip credits to the site. So in terms of the city's role, it is scheduled to be on the February 15th agenda, and they will cast the vote to approve the agreement for the slips. Just in general, highlights of the project. It's estimated to be a $55 million project. It will consist of 48,000 square feet of retail and professional space, 218 apartments, a pedestrian promenade to Cape Coral Parkway, a 500-space parking garage, and a 25-slip transient boat dock for use for the general public. The project has been broken up into Phase 1 and Phase 2. Phase 2 is going to consist of completion of the slips and allowing for that process to happen, and then the construction of the dock will take place. The agreement is allocating a percentage not to exceed 90% of the increment revenues, and the total amount that the project will receive in those increments is not to exceed $7 million over the term of the agreement. The agreement will terminate upon payment of the $7 million or 13 years after completion of Phase 1. I'm going to turn it over to Linda Miller, and she can give you the presentation on the project.
Thank you.
I'll start out. I'm Linda's sidekick today, Larry Nygaard, and she's done most of the work to date, so she's going to do most of the talking. But I just wanted to publicly thank the CRA for supporting this project for almost 2 years now, as we've developed this from a concept that originally started out to be quite a bit smaller than it is right now into what it is today, and we're really excited to be here at this stage of the game. And our hopes is that when we get through permitting and one more hurdle at the city council level, that we'll be able to start the project probably in May or June of this year. So that's the timing, and we're again thankful for your help and guidance and that of the economic development staff. Everybody's been very helpful on this, and we're excited to get started.
Thank you.
Any questions for me? Otherwise, I'll turn it over, and Linda will have some of the technical aspects.
Any questions yet? Go ahead,
Okay,
Linda.
thank you.
Good afternoon, Linda Miller, Vice President of Avalon Engineering. We're going through a plan unit development for this project with the City of Cape Coral, and we're rezoning 5.6 acres from mixed-use Bimini zoning district to mixed-use plan unit development, and we're attaining approval from a master concept plan. The reason why we have to rezone this property is because in the mixed-use Bimini zoning district, it specifies that office uses may only comprise 20% of the linear ground floor frontage along Cape Coral Parkway. And we're proposing that we have office uses up to 95% of our linear footage. The project consists of 13 parcels ranging in size from 0.3 acres to 1.74 acres, and it's 3 distinctive sites. A mixed-use building area, which is the 4.26 acres, the waterfront restaurant, which is 0.92, and the restaurant parking lot, which is 0.39. All of the parcels are separated by public streets. The zoning is consistent with the mixed-use Bimini area. All blue is around us, so we have the same zoning district adjacent to us on all sides. Same thing with the land use. We're in the downtown district. All of the area adjacent to us is also downtown district. We did hold some community meetings. We started off a year ago at the Chester Street Community Center and had 2 meetings with a lot of attendees. 52.2% of those lived near the project site, and 20.9% lived in the general area. We also, on February 24th and April 27th, we met with in separate groups with the Sunset Towers and the Bimini Villas. We also have been in communication with the residents that signed up with us. We sent out emails to inform them of what was happening with the project. So we prepared a master concept plan. This is the master concept plan for it. There's 3 buildings on the mixed-use site. We created our required open space in this project. We have 218 multifamily units. 198 of them are in building B and C, and 20 units will be used by Lee Health only. We have 48,181 square feet of medical office space in buildings A and C, a total of 7,841 square foot of waterfront restaurant, 2,536 square feet of other commercial uses. Our schedule of uses will be retail, office, restaurant, and residential, and a commercial parking lot. We have 603 parking spaces, 500 in the garage, 66 surface parking spaces, and 37 street spaces. We're required to have 445 parking spaces per the city code. Our open percentage is 25%, or 1.97 acres, and that's split up between the 3 different sites. We have heights of our buildings from building A and C will be 4 stories to 6 stories with a maximum height of 82 feet 4 inches, and the waterfront restaurant is 1 story, 30 feet 10 inches. We had a parking demand study prepared by Desmond Design Management, and the parking study concluded that the parking spaces provided will meet the parking demands of the uses that we're proposing. This is a landscaping plan. This is all put in with the PUD. We have to comply with the landscaping that we're showing here. You can see all of the streets or street-lined trees, and then there's green spaces within the development. This is just a blow-up of the corner area of Cape Coral Parkway and Sunset Court, along with a little amenity area within the courtyard of the mixed-use building. This is another little design feature of the green space between the office area and along Cape Coral Parkway and the multifamily units along Tudor Drive. We provided the city with building elevations for all sides of the buildings for all buildings within our development. And this is some pictures of them, some beautiful artwork for the buildings. This is facing the corner of Cape Coral Parkway and Palm Tree. This is another angle. This is off of Tudor Drive, seeing the parking garage and then the 2 side wing buildings. This is a little amenity area on top of the garage. We'll have a pool and a little bar area up there, some covered seating areas. This is a picture from above that. There's parking above on the last level of the parking garage along with the amenities. We also had an elevation of the restaurant. This is an elevation of the restaurant provided to the city for all sides of the restaurant. And then here's some renderings of the restaurant. And this last rendering is the restaurant in front of the mixed-use building with the dock area in front. We submitted this application, and it's consistent with 3.4.6.b of the city's land development code, which had 6 standards that we needed to meet. It was also consistent with the PUD zoning district requirements, which has 7 standards that we need to meet. It's consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, the housing element, the future land use element, policy 1.6, 1.15K, policy 3.1, policy 7.3. So we really did a thorough review of this particular project. It's also consistent with the city's CRA, so policy 3.1.2 and 3.1.7, which encourages new projects to construct parking garages to optimize the green and open space. Policy 3.3.1, which encourages residential projects to be aesthetically pleasing related to the adjacent uses. And policy 3.4.5 seek to encourage the development of retail and restaurant operations that have access to waterways. Oops. And the last thing is we did a protected species report on this particular project too. We have an environmentalist on site, so on our team, and they will be relocating the burrowing owl nest on the site that we have. And that's our project. We're very proud of this project. We're going to present it in front of City Council on February 15th, and stand by to answer any questions you may have.
One question, Ms. Miller? Actually, this might even be for the city. In developing both the tax increment and financing, you talked briefly about kind of the project scope. If this project, in my experience, oftentimes it's not uncommon for planned developments, especially the long ones that have been planned out, to be modified, to be amended. If this were to be significantly amended where some of the numbers either drop up and down, would that have a, certainly on the parking that would have a bearing, but would that have a bearing on the tax increment?
If it has effect, it would not have an effect on the total of $7 million. It may have an effect on how much they would receive as a TIF rebate per year because of the amount that is there, but it wouldn't have an effect on the final amount or the 13 years.
Thank you.
And if it was a substantial change to the PUD, they'd have to come in and do an amendment to the PUD.
Correct.
Anyone else? If not, I need a motion to approve the
I'd
tax
like to make,
increment.
oh, I'm sorry, go.
No, I need a motion to approve the tax increment rebate agreement as it's stated here.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve Sierra Resolution 1-23, approve tax increment rebate agreement between the City of Cape Coral, Community Redevelopment Agency, Bimini Square LLC, Scarlet Investments LLC, and Crown Development Incorporated regarding the mixed-use project known as Bimini Square.
Please call the roll.
Biondi?
Aye.
Gebhardt?
Aye.
Kine? Slaughter?
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carried.
Thank you. Great project. We're looking forward to it. Unfinished business. I don't see any of that, so we'll go right on to new business. The introduction of the CRA trade specialist.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Damon Grant for the record, Property Management Manager. Just want to take a quick, brief opportunity to introduce the board to our new CRA Maintenance Specialist, Darren Green. Darren started on September 6th, but unfortunately the storm had other plans for getting in front of you earlier. But he's doing a great job coming up to speed quickly. He's already getting involved with a lot of our renovations and the lighting systems, decorative lighting systems along 47th Terrace and Cape Coral Parkway. Darren comes to us from North Carolina, where he held an unlimited electrical license and has over 20 years of experience, not only in the electrical field, but in HVAC, plumbing, and general carpentry. He's a great find. We hope that we can hang on to him. I know that with positions opening up, there's always that threat that you're going to lose him. But we searched for several months for the right candidate for this position, which I'm sure some of you will recall. We're confident that Darren is a great find for both the position and the city. So please join me in officially welcoming Darren to the city. Thank you.
Welcome, Darren. Good to finally meet you. All right, next on the list is CRA Special Event Sponsorship Application Approvals. We have 3 today. Who wants to go first? Touch a Truck? Do you have anything you want to say?
Is there anything you want us to say?
Just tell us about the event, because we know it.
This will be our 6th year to have Cape Coral Touch a Truck. It's held on Lafayette Street between Cape Coral Street and Vincennes. We pull in over 55 commercial vehicles for the kids to climb in, honk the horns, blow the whistles, and it's all to support Fragile X syndrome. Fragile X syndrome is?
The leading known inherited intellectual and behavioral disability. Last year we know we had over 5,000 people there at that event, so it's a great event for the city and everybody. So
Anybody got any questions for us?
I don't. Oh, you do? Go ahead.
Not a question necessarily, but all those pipes and stuff that are up there, if I was a little kid, I would love to see that stuff too. So maybe just like let them walk close to it or something.
Do you want the liability of them climbing on them?
On the property across the street from ours.
You want the liability of them climbing on them?
No, absolutely not that.
Little too dangerous. I can see them crawling through the pipes.
Yes.
No.
That's our concern, is the danger with it. Plus, we use that space, the space across the street from the monkey bar is typically where we put the forestry service, because they bring a big bulldozer.
that they offload.
And this year, we have an opportunity to bring in mosquito control helicopter that we want to put by the monkey bar. So with those spaces taken up with pipes there, we're losing some of our vehicles' capabilities for the kids.
We'll have to try to work that out.
Any other questions?
No other questions. I can tell you, being involved with that for several years, it's a fabulous event. The kids have more fun, and big kids like me have a lot of fun with it too.
We call it
So
children of all
if you have
ages.
never been, come out to the event. It's a great event, and it's for a really good cause. Thank you.
Thank
We have
you.
a motion to approve that CRA special event request.
Motion?
Call the roll, please.
Biondi?
Aye.
Gerbhardt?
Aye.
Kine? Slaughter? 4 ayes, motion carried.
Okay, next on the list. Todd, you're up.
Todd King, Special Events Coordinator for the city. We are working on our Music Fusion Walk, which is going to be between 15th and Vincennes on 47th Terrace as well. It's a new concept. Now that we have some really cool art going in there, we had the new sculpture at the Vincennes Circle. We have the paintings that are on the electrical boxes. We just felt like it was time to try to engage or bring in an art component to our events downtown. And the walk itself will have 3 musical acts in different locations, and we'll also have a variety of different art vendors that people can take advantage of. Not as loud as a bike night, and a little bit more low-key, a little more wine and cheese kind of, hopefully, an experience. So we're seeking the grant to help pay for some of the outside costs, and certainly the support of the CRA in the CRA is very important to the Special Events Division and doing these activities and having these events downtown.
I have one quick question. What's the date and what's the time?
March 10th is our spring one. We had the fall one scheduled in November, but Hurricane Ian kind of set that aside, so we're scheduled for March 10th.
And what time is the event during the day?
We're going 5 to 9.
Is it March 10th or this Friday, February 10th? Which is it?
March 10th. March
okay.
10th.
There's a little confusion with
Well,
another
and I'm kind of glad you brought that up. We have a bike night going on the 11th, and some business owners felt like it was an opportunity for them to take advantage of that event and have sort of encroached a little bit on what we do for special events permitting and how we handle our events downtown. So I know that the leadership is working that through with the owners of those businesses that want to try to do that. I don't think it's going to happen. It's a conflict of interest and confusion for folks that are visiting us and the CRA. So that's being worked on.
Any other questions? No? All right, I need a motion to approve that.
Motion?
Second.
Could you call the roll, please?
Biondi?
Aye.
Gebhardt?
Aye.
Kine?
Aye.
Slaughter?
Aye.
All ayes, motion carried.
And next is the application for the Easter egg hunt downtown. South Cape Hospitality, you're up.
Good afternoon. How's
Good
everybody?
afternoon.
I'm here on behalf of Shia for our 3rd annual Easter egg hunt. It is our largest family event. We put this event on for small business or the business owners of the CRA district. Last year, we had over 40 businesses included in the event. This year, we're just looking for some monetary support and sponsorship for the vehicle. It is a limo bus that we transport the children and families across Del Prado just for the safety portions so that families are not physically walking across Cape Coral Parkway during the busy hours of 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and it's supposed to be April 8th of this year.
Any questions? Seeing none, I need a motion.
Motion?
Call the roll, please.
Biondi?
Aye.
Gebhardt?
Aye.
Kine?
Aye.
Slaughter?
Aye.
All ayes, motion carried.
Thank you.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, could I have a minute, please?
Certainly.
Since Mayor John Gunter happens to be here in attendance today, I thought maybe he could shed a little bit of light on the solution that Todd King spoke to you briefly about in reference to the Cape Coral Music Walk event, which is not a city event. Since he's here, I thought it might be a good time to give you an update.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I had the opportunity today to meet with the owner of Duval's, with our police chief. Even though the event that I know he has been advertising this week may be a good event for our area, unfortunately, the proper protocol permits were not applied for. So when we had our discussion today with him, one thing that we had discussed is any future type events of this magnitude, whether it's a music walk or art walk, even though we may welcome those type of events, there is a protocol and an application process that any individual, no matter it's him or any other individual that wants to have an event in our city, they must follow that particular protocol. So we worked out and gave him some advice on how to reach out to the city to make sure that those protocols are met. The event that he will have this weekend will be confined to the footprint of his business. So he is familiar with exactly what the expectation is. I think our police chief outlined that clearly. And any type of an event that he is going to have will be confined to his business. As you may know, they wanted to have an event, close down the street, put up stages, I think 2 stages, close down the roadway, block other businesses. Unfortunately, he did not have the proper permitting in place or to make sure that the public safety aspect of this event was met. So therefore, that event won't happen this weekend, but could happen in the future. So I just wanted to pass that information along to you.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Mayor?
One question, were there any concerns from the neighbors? Because that site is pretty tight, 5 pounds in a 5-pound bag, where a lot of the open area is not theirs, but it's the neighbors.
Yeah, and actually and I can't recall the name of the business, one of the discussions that myself and the police chief had with the owner of Duval's, they wanted to have maybe a smaller scale in the alleyway next to his particular business. He had mentioned that he had spoke to the neighbor next door and they didn't have a problem with that. But unfortunately, when I reached out to that particular business owner, that was clearly not the case. So then at that point, we made sure it was clear that he couldn't utilize the alley next to him either because that would impede on the business next to him, and they didn't agree with that. So that's why it was determined that it will be confined solely to the footprint of his business. Yes, ma'am.
The footprint of his business, does that include the sidewalk and the roundabout and?
Well, the sidewalk, he can utilize, as you well know, has tables out
Right.
at that particular area. His patrons can utilize the sidewalk area, and they can utilize the tables. But one thing that we did emphasize to him, you're not allowed to serve alcohol out onto the paver area. his liquor license only is for the confines of his footprint, which is under the roof area.
Oh,
So they cannot go out unless he applies for a separate permit. There is a process that you can apply for a special permit that he can go out and serve liquor out in the paver area sidewalk near his business, but you have to have a special permit for that, which he does not have.
okay, thank you. Anyone else? It's not normal, but come on. No, we're good. We're a little more flexible here.
No, it's mainly because you guys asked if any of the neighbors contacted anyone. Since she normally puts on downtown events, I was contacted by Fishtail, specifically asking about the location of the stage. I showed him the footprint of what I could see online and told him, to my knowledge, it was unlikely to go through because of permitting, but would obviously know more after this meeting in particular. But that was the only other location. They were concerned about physically where the stage was, because I guess previously a stage was put in front of them and
Yeah.
it lost business. So just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you. Thank you. While we're on the topic of special event requests, I would like to suggest that we, the CRA commissioners, have either a special workshop, or if we don't want to have a special workshop, we could have an agenda item for our next meeting to kind of go over our guidelines, our rules, and maybe tweak things just a little bit. And it's kind of a recommendation. I think I probably need a motion for that.
Chair, you can ask for a motion. If not, I have made a notation to add that topic to the next meeting.
What should we do? Go ahead, Janice.
I would also like to make that recommendation of maybe a retreat with like the city attorney and the executive director, not necessarily at a meeting, because I think there's a number of topics that I'm kind of confused about, not only when we help the different events going on. So I would definitely make that motion that we do something at a later date, not too late, but that we set something up, because I do have a lot of questions.
So a separate workshop is what you're looking for.
Yes, like next to the city manager's office in that little room, but because I might have questions that this only like a city attorney could answer, to see if they could be there, and the executive director.
Do we need a motion to set that up, or do we just set that up?
Let's go ahead and have a motion.
For a
And I-
special meeting, you should have a
motion.
motion for that, but
Okay.
the problem is you probably don't have a date just yet, and I don't know if you all have your calendars, so.
Yeah.
And Jim Brantley's not here, and I would
Right,
want him to be here.
so it may be something that the clerk's office can make a couple of phone calls individually to each of them to get a few dates, and then figure something out. And you gotta remember, at a workshop, it's non-voting.
Right.
I mean, it's just basically a discussion, so, then it would have to come back for
For a vote.
whatever you wanna do, if you're changing your guidelines or something else, so.
Exactly.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Janice, is the workshop primarily to go through, like the city attorney said, a workshop, you can't take action and you can't direct action on a vote?
No.
Basically, it's fact-finding. Would it be helpful to have at our next meeting an agenda item where the process is distributed but briefly explained, gives you enough to chew on, and then if we do a special workshop, we've all in other words, I kind of think I know what you're looking at, but I'm not sure. And I don't want to
We'll
vote
find out
on,
at the workshop.
yeah.
There's certain items that I think we need to look at, and certain items that I think we need to tweak a little bit, so that everybody's clear and that everybody's on the same page. And I think at a workshop with an attorney and the executive director or the representative, we can do something like that. We just have to figure out a date. And if you could give us like 3 or 4, like 3 dates, and we can see when the meeting room is available and see when most of us, I would love it to be all of us, but if it's most of us, that would work too.
Yes, I could facilitate that. And that will be in conference room 228.
We meet in February?
We are in February.
We meet in March, the first Tuesday in March.
The next meeting is April 4th, Tuesday, so there's no meeting in March.
Maybe meet temporarily March 7th and don't have a CRA meeting schedule and Tuesdays, just a suggestion.
Is March 7th okay for everybody?
They gotta check the rent too.
Right.
Yeah,
that's what
they
was
would
gonna
have
say.
So I
You
could
gotta
get back
check the
with the
room
board.
And all that, so
Yeah.
I think if the clerk's office contacts you, and that would probably be the better route than try to figure something out right here.
Okay.
There's too many moving parts.
But we do need a motion to make this happen
You need a
Even though we don't
motion
have a date certain?
For a special meeting
for a special
in
meeting.
March,
you go.
preferably the first or second week, from what I'm hearing.
There's your motion.
Can I second
What
that?
he said.
Okay, I'll make a motion, essentially try to put into words what Brian just said, to authorize us to have a special workshop meeting in March, preferably the first, second week. Hopefully Jim Brantley can attend as well. But for the purpose, essentially, really taking a second look at our process, procedures, everything from, historically, the relationship with Shias, those things have happened. And, because I do get the impression there's some folks out in the community, like I said, who just simply don't know the rules. And I think the mayor's comment on the one event that could have happened.
Right, I think it's that, and there's several other items that we can actually look at, what we want to do next, and I think a
Also,
workshop
could I
is the
ask,
best.
Helen had sent an email out where somebody had requested certain information. Don't you remember early in the week where she'd sent off about 7 or 8 things where it talked about funding? Was that related in any way to this type of question?
This is all the same topic. It's
And I don't know
related to
who
the
sent
CRA
it, but I'm
special event
assuming
sponsorship.
then
Right.
that would be a good opportunity to handle that type of.
That would be one of the
Because I
topics.
went through the paperwork, but I didn't really know, all right, what am I looking at? What's the issue?
See, the CRA has a sponsorship program where they provide funds, certain nonprofits and so forth. That is separate from what that business person was trying to do
Exactly.
regarding special event permit. That is a city regulation, which everybody that does a special event has to comply with, whether it is in the CRA or anywhere else within the city. So there are two separate issues. The event, the actual permitting, you guys won't be really discussing
We don't
that.
get involved
It's your
with that.
guidelines as to how you're going to sponsor. Yeah.
All right, we're good, so we have a motion and a second.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Biondi?
Aye.
Durpar?
Aye.
Kine? Slaughter?
Aye.
All ayes, motion carried.
Okay. Next item, Hurricane Ian update. Who's up?
We will have Sharon Woodbury, your Economic and Business Development Officer, as well as Damon Grant, Property Management Manager.
So I'm here to share today just some of the data that we've been able to collect on the impact of our businesses specifically located in the CRA. At our last meeting, there were a lot of questions. We have aggregate data. We were getting, things that were specific to certain businesses, but we wanted to, and I think this was the desire of the board, to have a better understanding of how our businesses in the CRA were impacted. So in working with Lee County and the Florida Economic Development Office, we were able to get some data that was reported through the Business Damage Assessment Survey. Again, that was aggregate data, but by pulling it out based on the zip codes, we were able to narrow down and get some information that is helpful in just getting a good picture of how we were specifically affected. But I'll give a broader scale in terms of the purpose of the survey and how it was enacted, and then get into some of the specifics. So on September 29th, Governor DeSantis activated the Business Damage Assessment Survey on floridadisaster.biz. The BDA survey it's a self-reporting tool for small and medium-sized businesses to report physical and economic damages that result from a natural disaster. Businesses affected by the storm were encouraged to complete the survey to provide an overall picture of the economic impact of Hurricane Ian. The BDA survey asks business owners a variety of questions to ascertain the extent of the damage caused by this disaster. And questions include, did your business location suffer damages? Are you currently open for business? What were your business revenues during the period? Do you have business interruption insurance? Have you or will you lay off employees as a result of this disaster? So the surveys came in over a period of time, starting from September 29th when it was enacted, and I think they got the last of their results coming through in December. So you're getting a picture of where businesses were at various aspects and timing of the survey. Statewide, the survey was completed by 2,316 businesses. There was a total of $821 million of damage reported and 667 permanent employee layoffs. When you get to the businesses, not just in Cape Coral, but those specific again to CRA, we got 17 responses from our businesses. The revenue that was generated during the period, again, this is some timing in terms of when they responded, but immediately following the hurricane, revenue that they generated in that period in total was $224,000. That compares to the prior year in it being $989,100. So a significant decline in revenue as a result of the impact of the hurricane. Estimated damage, $1.64 million. The number of employees of the businesses that reported total were 86 employees, and they were estimating 28 layoffs. Again, this is it's self-reporting, so it's based on businesses that did report, and it's not a complete picture just yet. There are other sources of information that the Florida, that they'll be compiling to get a better sense, more well-rounded, looking at tax revenue, some of the information that's been reported on loan applications, and employee dislocation. So this is an initial picture in giving you an idea of what our businesses saw and their impact for the area. Okay.
So you said 17 businesses responded, is that correct?
That's correct.
Which I could count probably 12 just from Coronado to not even the like back streets or whatever, not counting both sides. So to me, that really isn't, and I'm not blaming anybody, is not a really good estimate of what's going on or what happened in South Cape with the storm.
Correct. We don't have an overall picture in, statewide that was recognized in that there was a small percentage of those that did report. So we're not going to get a full picture locally, but also the report as a whole. Again, it's self-reporting, so that's a disclaimer to the information. But it's a start in understanding where we were with some of the businesses.
And for a while right afterwards, there was just like no time to do, anything else besides just, trying to get things back in order again. So I think that's probably a good reason for a lot of that stuff. I know ours came in, I think later, like way later than it should have been. So that's probably everybody was just kind of trying to, tread water. And then people that aren't able to, even be there or open back up again probably didn't get their info in either.
Do we know how many businesses completely shut down? Like I know Stewart, I think they closed up shop.
I'll have to look into that information. I just pulled what were some of the standard statistics and where we were able to get specific to our area. It's all filtered, so I can go back and see if we're able to get that. I think I saw if I were to guess, in looking at the initial data, I think I saw 2 or 3 that said that they had not closed, but the bulk of them had closed at some point. So they just had the last deadline for the economic impact. There were 2 physical and economic. I believe those dates have passed. It just recently reached that date. When I, had some conversations with some of our businesses downtown, and there was some frustration in terms of just the loan application process, the amount of documents that had to be provided, and then the time in getting a response. So, there was some frustration. We, certainly promoted that we had the Assistance Center, the Business Resource Center for FEMA, and offering assistance with that. SBDC was also present. So we did communicate that, but it's, certainly something that businesses, they're still trying to run their business, and so that was a challenge. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we also have a Hurricane Ian update related to damage in the CRA. I believe Damon Grant has a presentation for you.
That's okay.
Okay, Damon Grant again, Property Management Manager. The property management staff did take an opportunity to put together a quick slideshow of some of the damage within the CRA. And there's quite a few slides, so I'll go through them, and if there's any questions, we can go back and talk about it. Hurricane Ian damage CRA, that has a pretty good depiction of the outline of the different areas within the CRA. The focus of the discussions that these slides are going to cover are mainly in that blue area, Lafayette Street, Chester, 47th Terrace, Cape Coral Parkway, that area that we're going to be hitting. Not to say that there wasn't landscape and sign and other wind damage or water damage in some of the other areas. Lafayette Street building, there's a picture of the new shingles that we put on about 3 or 4 months before the storm that were damaged. The rooftop air conditioning package unit, the cover was damaged. And then the Lafayette building's a little different. You have a gabled shingle on the front, which would be the south side of the building, and at the north you have a flat built-up roof. Both, as a result of the storm, appear to be leaking and causing some water intrusion on the inside. Lafayette Street, I'll just say it now so we don't go back to it, is being covered. FMIT Insurance is covering this one, so we're working with Synergy. It's part of a turnkey package, and I think they're in the process of scheduling the repairs for this one to go out and get started, probably within the next, I would say, 3 to 4 weeks. A little faster than the FEMA process is going. Chester Street Resource Center, that's 4800 block of Chester Street. Again, water intrusion from wind-driven rain and mold mitigation. This is going to be this is the insurance. Sorry, the Lafayette Street is the FEMA process. The Chester Street will be the insurance coverage that we're going to start on in the next 3 to 4 weeks. My apologies. And it did receive a lot of water intrusion. We picked up baseboard, flooring, and a lot of the drywall that were inside the building are out, as you can see from some of the pictures. And we're going to be moving forward with the mitigation work involved with this facility. 3 street and tree lights. Obviously, both Lee County lights, which is on the top, that top white pole is Lee County's. The decorative pole below is the city's. We had several of our poles have been twisted, damaged. We're missing the globes, the bulbs, the banners, even the stems at the top have been twisted and facing the sidewalk instead of the street. Same way with Lee County poles, no different. We've restored the 208 volt lights. What that means is basically we have some street lights that are working. The majority of the street lights are working on 47 Terrace and Cape Coral Parkway. But what we don't have is the 120 volt electric, which provides power to the decorative street lights and the tree lighting that so many people like in that area. 47th Terrace electrical panel. This is the root cause of why we don't have the power that we just talked about. As you can see, that observed water line, it's tough to see from the size of these pictures, but you can see the water line or how high the tidal surge from Hurricane Ian ascended to in those panels. So obviously, the water came up and submerged a lot of our electrical components in salt water, and as such, as you can see on the top, our building department inspectors have gone by and said these are unusable, and basically we put those out of operation until we can get quotes and go through the process to get those fixed. I know that the quotes, this is the second time out, and they're due back to us a week from tomorrow. 47th Terrace in 5th place, Swale. Again, this is due to not necessarily the wind, but the tidal surge, the washout. This is on 47th Terrace, 500 block where the cut through is to get over to Country Club. A lot of people use, but it's going to require digging out that area, excavating it, rebuilding some of those tiebacks, and then mitigating any of the damage to the cap and the actual seawall. In addition to that, obviously you can see the guardrail damage and sign damage. We didn't hit too much in this presentation, but there are a number, probably hundreds of signs that have been twisted or bent that are going to need to be replaced. Dumpster enclosures, anything that had vinyl on it, as you guys know, was torn up and blown away. These vinyl dumpster enclosures are no different. As you can see, a lot of the panels have been ripped away, and it's opening up for public dumping. These are typically shut, secured, and locked and used for restaurants, but now that there's free access, we are seeing a lot of public dumping going on. Cameras, ITS equipment, if you've noticed up on the lights, mainly on 47th Terrace, you can see at the top of the vertical pole the cameras. They had a pretty elaborate camera and ITS system in that area that provided us with camera footage and also provide Wi-Fi. It provided us the ability to see license plates readers, and there's a long list of our IT-related infrastructure that we're going to have to, that's on our list for FEMA that we're going to have to work through and get replaced. CRA, I think from here on out, it's going to be a lot of landscaping issues, but CRA, just to give you an order of magnitude, Big John's parking lot, hardwood trees even, 30 degrees leaning, you can see those. 7 trees, palm trees down or destroyed. Iguanamia parking lot, no different. 11 trees and palms down or destroyed. CRA landscape, this was, 920 Southeast 47th Terrace, more of the same. Again, Cape Coral Parkway East and the median, you can see all of our plantings are over on their side with their root ball exposed. Several, even hardwood trees are down, and then the palm trees, which tend to be pretty resilient, were also down or destroyed. And then, working with Omar Leon, our arborist, a lot of these, they may still be standing, but, over the next couple months, we're going to start seeing the damage caused by the salt intrusion into their systems. Cape Coral Parkway East, hardscape, streetscape, again, trees down, salt damage, a lot of root balls exposed. 47th Terrace, 65 trees or palms were down or destroyed. Club Square, looks like what's left of a hardwood, and it says 10 trees, palms down. So that gives you just a snapshot. I don't know how many of you have been down in that area, but obviously from the yacht club up through the Parkway and even on Coronado. I mean, shortly after the storm, staff and I had taken a ride up there, and Cape Coral Parkway was underwater, 47th Terrace was underwater, and a lot of, even a portion of Coronado to a large extent was underwater with water coming up into the residence or the facilities. But that's what we have so far, and we're approaching that. If you're wondering why we haven't done more, some of these facilities or projects are waiting on FEMA approval. Some were expedited if they were life safety. Others were dealing with insurance. But the normal process is, we work to identify the damage, then we work with our insurance group, FMIT, Synergy, to see if it's covered under insurance, if it makes sense to pursue insurance. If it doesn't get picked up by insurance, then we're reaching out to FEMA, whether through the PA Public Assistance or HMGP Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, if we're going to replace something not only like for like, but to make it better. And so we're sorting through each of these projects and seeing what applies and what's applicable, what makes sense to maybe enhance some of the structures. So if we had shingle on a roof, it makes no sense to put another shingle back. If we have another storm, we're going to be paying for it again. So it might make sense to go to a standing seam or 5V metal roof, which is more likely to sustain that type of damage. But that's what we had for you this afternoon. Any questions for me?
It's very hard to see all that. And I was wondering, is there any way that we can, and if we haven't already, because I've seen some negativity on social media regarding some of these issues, is there any way to get this information out to the public so we don't have some of the nastiness that goes on, to let people know that these are the reasons that there's not internet, there's reasons. I don't know how it's going to affect bike night, Saturday night with the vendors, with the electric being out. And, unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people are watching what we're doing right now on TV, but maybe we can do a better job of some kind of social media if we haven't already and I missed it.
Yes, we can do that. Thank you for the suggestion. Yes.
Thank you.
Actually, I had a couple of questions. Yeah, I apologize, David. As the city tries to become more of a hurricane-tolerant community, and we have an opportunity to do things, I don't want to say over again, but differently, has that caused the city to maybe reflect a little more patience where, as Janice said, everyone kind of seems to be getting, going and let's get it done. Well, sometimes there's a better way of doing it. And I'm thinking one thing in particular. We recently brought in I'm not sure if he's a landscape architect or an arborist, but essentially an urban forester. And one of the big shames that, after a storm like that, you see so much of what we planted and grown just destroyed. Has that caused us to re-examine the types of trees, especially in our public medians, and those that might be, they have an opportunity, in other words, to provide both, I think, a more attractive community, but sometimes, things like shade is nice. But boy, I'd be really, trying to plant those big trees again, breaking up the sidewalks, doing that. Have we taken a look at the budget implications of switching?
I can tell you what I know, and it might be a better question for the city manager's office, but Omar Leon, the one that you're referring to, is our new arborist. He's been going out and looking at all of our facilities, even with some of the Operation Sparkle, and looking at our parks projects, and he's identifying, the non-native or invasive species and looking to replace those with more salt-tolerant and Florida vegetation, and he's done that same thing in the CRA area. He was with part of the group that was going out with the damage assessment. So I know he's looked into the Club Square, 47th Terrace, Cape Coral Parkway, and I'm positive that he's probably looking to say, if we're going to replace these, let's take a long-term look at what we're putting in there and how tolerant will they be for the next storm, and then what are they doing to, like what you mentioned, the concrete and the asphalt. I mean, every couple years it seems like we're going out and replacing parking spaces due to just the root structure of certain trees that rise up. So that's being done. And then as far as the, looking to the future, I think we are. I've sat in on a number of meetings with our finance team and our public works upper management, and they're looking to not rush into making any quick repairs. We want to make sure that we repair it the right way, and that would include that hazard mitigation grant funding projects, which are all about, hey, if we're going to put it back together, let's put it back together where it can withstand the same storm if we get it again in the future. So it takes a little longer, and folks have to be patient in a time when they don't want to be, but it's all about exactly what you said, doing the right thing and what's going to be the best for the city long term. So I know that those things are happening.
You're pretty much taking a strategic approach then. In other words, you're driven to get things done, but at a certain point, you've got to take a look around and go, well, what's a better solution?
Right. Yeah, I mean, if it needed to get done for the safety, security, obviously we stepped in and we did those right away. But for those that we could take our time with and take a more strategic approach or look at, then that is being done. And I'll defer the rest over to Maureen or the city manager's office, but I know that that is happening. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I got.
And one thing I wanted to add to that, keep in mind, and Omar does that not just in the CRA, he does that citywide, a more strategic approach, which is exactly why we hired him, right? And that's why we've added that position. But keep in mind, with the landscape damages that you saw, which were heartbreaking, FEMA doesn't cover landscape damages. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Some of these things will be covered by FEMA and others just won't. So thank you.
I just want to say, and I think we were kind of on that track when we did the streetscape on 47 Terrace. We were trying, maybe not saltwater, but we did remove a lot of those trees with them doing under the street work and the infrastructure. So I think it's something that we were doing even before the storm. We were kind of on that track to begin with.
Yes, staff was asked to present some options to the CRA board, reference the CRA-owned building located at 1231 Lafayette Street. We had Dawn Andrews, who I believe is in attendance today. She provided some options that I will discuss with you all, and if you have any further questions, and if you decide to make a decision today, that's okay, but if you have any further questions, we have Dawn here to answer those questions. One of the options for that building would be to place the building for lease. The market rate for office space in this area appears to be about $16 to $17 per square foot, which would equate to about $1,700 to $1,800 a month. That would not include utilities at the location. Another option for the board would be to place the building up for sale. The executive director recommends this option. An appraisal would be required to be ordered before we list the property, but based on list prices and sales in the downtown area, the guesstimate is somewhere around $375,000 to $400,000. And another option would be to utilize this space for the CRA or city personnel. I do know that the building is about 1,275 square feet of office area. There's also a garage area of about 825 square feet that's currently being used right now by our property management division. They are storing CRA decorations and other items for the CRA there in the garage area. So those are some options for the board if you'd like to consider doing something different with the building.
I don't know if we remember, what did we end up putting into that building with the purchase, and then how much we got into this?
Purchase, but I think we just put about, what, $100,000 into that?
It's in your monthly report if we look, and I actually just saw the number. Let me check.
It's almost $100,000.
I believe the budget was 100,000, but
52, is that?
yes, expenditures to date are about 52, and there's a open purchase order for 20,000. But $100,000 was the approved budget.
Okay. And then if we were to either put it up for sale or for lease, we would have to be waiting on FEMA for us to get the work done on the building to get it ready? And there's no just waiting forever for that, right?
I don't know that we do. Damien, do we have any sort of timeline? I'm not sure that we have a solid timeline on when.
I'm sure nobody, yeah.
Right.
Lafayette Street, right?
Correct.
So Lafayette Street has been assigned FEMA project managers, and I think it's round 2. They're doing a round 1 right now, and I think that the Lafayette Street building is part of round 2 for the FEMA inspectors to come out and take a look and discuss with staff the damage and go from there. So that's probably another, I would guesstimate another month or so before the FEMA folks even see it.
If we were to lease it, we would still have to abide by those issues too?
Correct.
We'd have to get everything done.
What was the first option?
Lease.
All right, second was sell.
Correct.
Second one was sell, and the third one was to keep it.
Is there any interest of anybody wanting to purchase it?
Yes, we've been contacted by an organization that is interested in purchasing the building.
Question for staff. The sell option you said was staff's recommendation. Is that partly dependent on the fact that there's very, very limited parking? There's parking all around it, but you don't control it.
Partially, yes.
So somebody can tell you, go move it.
Correct.
And I think that's one of those things where sometimes when you have resources, it's nice, but sometimes if it's so limited that, one hand's tied behind your back. Because my only concern is if use by the city continues to, in other words, it's a surplus building and you use it till you don't need it. But in this particular case, we're spending money. So the question becomes, how do we recapture certain things? And it's a shame that we put a lot of money into. Sometimes Mother Nature can get a little wicked, and that happens. Are you looking for a vote today or a decision?
That's up to the board.
I think we should probably wait until we get how much and how long from FEMA, right? Because we're gonna have to put the money in before we either sell it or rent it anyway, or give it to the city.
As a suggestion, this could be put on the workshop because you've got another you got another 4 to 5 weeks before the workshop. I'm not optimistic FEMA's gonna give an answer or anything by then, but then you can talk about it a little bit further.
And then, is it possible for us to pick a company, if we were to sell it or lease it, that would do something that we would want to see in South Cape, or is that kind of just not our legal?
You're going to sell it, just sell it.
Yeah.
No, and actually with leasing the property, according to the statutes, you have to give public notice that you want to lease it, so other companies, other businesses could submit a proposal to you also. That's never happened yet. I mean, we have leased it before. The CRA has leased it, obviously, as you all know. We've always done the notice, and, there's been nobody to...
Are there any encumbrances on the building? I mean, I assume that's been all vetted through, or?
No, we keep saying we. The CRA obtained the property through a foreclosure, actually.
Oh.
Years ago, the CRA put some money into a development that never came to fruition, so we foreclosed on it.
But there's no deed or nothing that can come back and bite us that it was intended for. That's a good thing. Gives you flexibility.
And part of the statute, of course, allows you to obtain property and then sell it for redevelopment purposes. So if a business does want to come in and buy it and actually, put a business and redo it.
So can they sell it and then they would, as is, and be reimbursed by FEMA to do it? Or does it have to be us?
I'm not familiar with the FEMA regulations. I mean, I guess we've already put in whatever application that needed to be put in. I don't know whether that could be withdrawn or not.
It would be
I don't
more
know
of a
how that
headache.
works. You'd probably get more money
Yeah, but
for a top dollar by getting it repaired and ready for somebody just to either move right in. People can, you would take a discount on the selling price, and I don't know what the damage is, what the estimate is.
I would say personally, we should wait until we find out just a little bit more information before making any decision.
I agree. I think we should put that on our workshop agenda.
I would second that if that's a.
And if it's possible, if we're going to be that, can we try to get some kind of an idea of what that building will be worth, fixed? Like get an appraisal done?
Yes. We can.
Up here quite a bit today. Sharon Woodbury, Economic and Business Development Office. So today I'm going to talk to you about a conceptual facade program, looking into some other cities and picking the best of what we've seen and presenting some options and what we have kind of put together as a framework for the facade program and seeking input on whether it meets your needs, if there's some other things that you'd like to see be considered. So if we look at just what a facade program is, it's an incentive program that's created to encourage property owners to improve in the exterior appearances of their building, and it's a financial incentive that can be provided in the form of a grant, loan, or other form. Purpose is to encourage private investment in improving the characteristics and enhancing the quality and attractiveness of a building. The financial goal is to improve property values of targeted areas as well. So when you look at the economic benefits of a facade program, there are a number of identified benefits, some of them being that buildings that had improvements saw an increase in sales in the year after the improvements were made. These sale improvements were sustained for several years, and it increased local taxes for the municipality. The improvements attracted new businesses and shoppers to the area. It encouraged other businesses in the area to make additional improvements and to also make additional improvements into the interior spaces. Tenants and owners in the surrounding areas were also motivated to make improvements. So here are just a few examples of a facade program and what you see in terms of before and after, the benefits and how these buildings were enhanced. This one is located in Salt Lake City, Hamilton, New York, and the Austin Square Shopping Center. In terms of the program and guidelines that we're proposing, we have looked at structuring this as a reimbursement, 50% and the grant amount being up to $50,000. At 50%, that's a one-to-one match, so the business owner would be responsible for providing an equal match to the grant. We're also looking at and believe it is important to incorporate design assistance to this program, where the business owners can sit down with the design professional and put together what would be the most impactful and the improvements that can make the improvements that are aesthetically enhancing and again for impact. That would be a requirement. So as we're structuring this and putting together what the applicants are required to do in order to apply for the program and receive assistance, they would also have to incorporate the design assistance, and we would provide that as a grant as well. The grants will be structured as forgivable loans after a 5-year period. There will be certain actions or activities that happen that could trigger a repayment. Some of those being if the property was demolished, transferred, or there was some type of code enforcement lien. And then we're also looking to incorporate an internal design review committee. So it would be staff internally that would meet as a group and approve projects according to established guidelines. In order to, again, make the most impact, we're proposing that there are a minimum of 3 improvements that have to be done to the structure. No more than 50% of that can be used towards improvements considered to be maintenance. And then eligible improvements for the program would be, as an example, costs associated with exterior improvements that include but are not limited to entry doors, windows, lighting, shade canopies, sidewalks, signage, landscaping, and parking lot improvements if it furthers the objective of, again, enhancing the property. So next steps, we have actually had a committee of the whole presentation. It took place January 18th. And at that time, we got positive feedback from the council members in wanting to flesh out some of the details, one of those being our stakeholder engagements, which is one of the next steps in getting feedback from architects, those that would be participating, looking at the number, if it's a fair number where it can make a difference in the improvements that are being made. So we really want to get some feedback and then flesh out some of the finer points of the program. We also provided the presentation to our Cape Competes Advisory Board, which are made up of local businesses. They also supported the project and officially voted to endorse and support the facade program. The next steps would be after stakeholder engagement, going back to City Council for approval, and it would be amending the existing ordinance of incentives that we have in place, so the facade program would be an additional tool within our Cape Competes program. We're looking to roll this program out in 2 phases, where we would focus on downtown CRA first, get the program up and running, see how it works in terms of efficiencies and fine-tuning things. And after we have a number of projects done, I think when we talked to council, they wanted to see maybe 2 or 3 as kind of the trigger before we move into phase 2. And at that point, we'll be looking at specific corridors. When we look at targeted areas, you see the most impact. One of the things that we talked about is being able to improve financial values of the property. When you have it in a more compact area, it makes more of a difference. And so we'll be looking at specific corridors in phase 2. And of course, you know what the downtown CRA looks like in terms of the boundaries. And I'll open it up for any questions. Yes?
2 thoughts. One, I absolutely support this type of effort and I compliment the city. I think if we're going to compete against other communities, we have to have our brand. We have to have our image locked in. So the second point is, I'm a little concerned with a design review board absent the foundation of an architectural design standard or pattern book or some level of standard of this is what we're going to create. Could be problematic, especially when it's the city. And I simply say that is being on architectural design review boards, it gives council a little bit of leeway in having some issues resolved at the community level before you get to that level of an appeal. But if it just goes to staff, I can just imagine there's some folks in this community who, you know, they believe in private property rights for themselves, but for whatever reason forget the rights of others. And one of my concerns long-term is just simply is how we grow and look as a community, because, you know, there's some rough areas. The CRAs, by definition, acknowledges that we have some tax problems and poverty. So is there a concern of the city of developing that type of book or pattern book, standards that people then would have the predictability to make decisions of what type of facade they would like to go with?
Yes, so that was a topic of discussion. I have been working with our planning and zoning division and trying to come up with what some of those standards would look like. Some of the concern was if we went back to creating a whole new set of standards and really expanding on that could take a lot of time. And going through the steps of what's required for zoning and making that amendment. That is certainly something that we've looked at as something down the road that we can do. But at this time, what we're looking at is just what the design standards are within the existing code and being able to accomplish some of the things I think you're talking about by incorporating that design assistance and having an architect in place.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, it's been all over the news. So kudos, because it's out there. And to me, the CRA is, I wrote down, alleviate blight. And I think that this is one way to do it. I think the Cove and Bimini Basin is really going to up our game in South Cape. So I definitely support something along these lines, as Tom said as well. Anything, because to me we kind of don't do that enough or at all right now, and our focus is more on events, but I really think that we need to focus more on bringing up our standards for that area.
Anything else? Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
Okay, next, the CRA projects update. Who's up?
That would be me. All of you received the CRA progress report that you receive on a, that we send you on a monthly basis. And we wanted to add this item to the agenda to give you an opportunity to ask any questions about these projects that you may have. I believe we have most of the staff that we need here in the room that might be able to answer questions about these projects. So just wanted to provide that opportunity to the board. We don't necessarily discuss the report at every meeting and wanted to do that periodically.
Anybody
If you
have
want
any
me to go through each of the projects, I can. I don't know if that's necessary, but that's up to you.
I have a question on the main transmission line, the forced main transmission line update.
We'll have Byron Taylor from the Utilities Department come up.
Over the last 2 days, I've noticed that several streets are totally shut down, and I went to Brasso Realty, that's where I work, and the building is being renovated, and in there was this letter from the city stating that this was the first stage of phase 4, and this was happening early February, which is now, and it would continue for 2 weeks. Well, that was on Cape Coral Street between Miramar and Lafayette. Then if you went across the Parkway, 15th Avenue was shut down from the Parkway to 46th Lane, I think, 46th Lane. Some of the businesses were noticed, some of them were not. And it becomes a problem for the businesses. It also becomes a problem for we in the CRA who get the questions about what's going on, nobody told me. And if we don't know, we can't tell them. So my suggestion is going to be, when something like this, of this magnitude happens, can we please notice us? At least get it out to us. And then with all of your media, your Facebook pages that are city-oriented, a lot of people don't go on those pages. A lot of people don't read The Breeze. And believe it or not, people don't watch NBC News. It's just a fact of life. So if we are informed, we can try to get it out to the people in our area. Or if there's a question from one of our residents or constituents or whatever you want to call them, we would have an answer. So I'm just saying, I didn't realize that the force main was going to affect that part of the Cape. I thought, and maybe mistakenly so, that it was starting from 47th Terrace west of Coronado and going west, and then up to Gleason. I didn't personally realize it was happening in the South Cape area, in the downtown. I understand 47th Terrace is going to be affected as well, and I think we need to talk about that as to when that's happening. We don't want to stop it. We might just want to make sure that it doesn't happen when we have the most people here.
Yes, ma'am. Again, Byron Taylor with the Utilities Admin Department. We did hire a PIO, Public Information Officer company, Quest, and they did do a mass mailing to everybody that we determined would be affected, and we have also hand-delivered letters as well. I've worked with our communication staff to do, as you mentioned, Facebook, all the multimedia. Quest has sent notices to NBC, ABC, CBS, trying to get, but as you say, we try and reach out to get as much information out there, but I will start including this council on the email as well. As far as 15th Street and Cape Coral Street, we're rerouting the lift station in that area. It started Monday. It will continue for at least 2 weeks. I did speak with Touch the Trucks folks and explained that the pipe is in our laydown yards. We prioritize which lots they would prefer if we can to accommodate their event. One of the parcels, the northern parcel, which is behind Nice Guys, that is for the casing and carrier pipe for the drill. So it's possible, I work with a contractor, that it'll be done in 2 weeks.
Any other questions or comments about any of these projects that are happening here?
And like Byron said, what we will do is, city staff will work with Quest, which is the contractors, which is the PIO firm hired to handle the notifications. And we'll make sure that in addition to the noticing that they're already doing, that we send all of those notices to the CRA board, because that can only help us amplify that message. All of you can help serve as ambassadors, and it's just that many more people we reach, so.
Right. I think
be easy
sometimes
fix.
people forget that people know us.
Right.
And they're going to come to us. They might not go to a council person or to the mayor or to the city manager. They know we're the CRA, so they're going to come to us.
Thank you for
They
the
know Greg
suggestion.
works there. They know I work there.
And we do have a database of all the emailings that we've put out, if you'd like that as well.
Anything else? Anybody else have any other questions about the CRA progress report? Okay. Moving right along. Comments from the, reports from staff. Do we have any staff reports?
No report.
No report? Okay, comments from the board. Tom, you're up.
None, thank you.
Greg?
Yeah, I'm not sure what anybody else's stance is on this, but I think that Rob had been doing a pretty good job of bringing new things to the CRA and getting things done. And I was pretty optimistic with the direction things were going with the city. And it might be a bit late, but for us to consider a resolution supporting a contract extension, because I'm concerned we'll lose our momentum with how things have been going. I don't know if there's anybody has any thoughts on that.
I think the only thoughts we have on that is I think it's a done deal. I don't think we had anything to say about it. The council made their decision, and sad that it is, because we were moving in a very forward direction. We have a lot of stuff going on, as you all know, here in the CRA, and we were moving along with it quite nicely. We were getting artwork, we were getting infrastructure, we were getting trees and lights and big stuff, big projects. And with what's happened, I think it may put a little glitch, but I think we just have to learn to live with what the decision was and why they made whatever decision the decision that they made. We were not in their position, so I think that's just what we have to say, so.
Hopefully we can keep the momentum going in the same direction it's been going, because things have
Exactly.
been going well the past couple of years, except for the hurricane, of course.
Of course. Janice, you got anything? Yep. How did I know that?
I have one question. We discussed, I think, in the November meeting, something about doing like a promo video about the CRA, like live and play and dine and shop. Are we doing anything with that? I've seen other videos with the mayor and stuff like that. I mean, I know it's kind of hard with the hurricane damage after what we just saw today, but I thought we were going to do something
Yes, we're working on that. They have the, I think you've probably seen the new banners that have gone up, the Live, but that's was kind of the kickoff, the beginning of that. They're just prioritizing some of the messaging, but that is on the to-do list coming right around the corner as far as a video. And I don't know if you've seen some of the, we're open for business videos from around the city. Some of those are CRA-related businesses, but we've been doing some videos every, I believe, Friday. Of different businesses that are open, advertising to the community and elsewhere that we're open for business. So that's in the queue. That's one of the items, but those banners came first.
Okay. And then the other thing is, I just wanted to publicly thank Helen Ramey, who retired recently. She was definitely an asset to the CRA and helped guide us as well.
And I echo Janice, I had that on my list, the promo video, and I also want to publicly thank Helen. I've known Helen for a very long time. She has been one of our biggest assets here in South Cape. She is such a promoter for the businesses and the way everything has been done in South Cape. So we need to thank her, and we had a really good time the other night at Nice Guys. And Helen, good luck in your future endeavors, and don't set your alarm clock.
I second that.
Any other comments? Bobby, you have anything? Okay. Our next meeting, time and place of next meeting is right here in council chambers, April 4th, unless we have a special meeting before that, but this one is the scheduled one. So I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second? We are adjourned.